Welcome all to our channel GTech Fluent. Our today's topic number 12 in ASP.NET Core video series is developer exception page in ASP.NET Core. So please do subscribe to our channel to get the latest video updates. So in this video, we'll discuss and understand what is developer exception page, how to use the developer exception page, and how to customize the developer exception page. So let's start and see what is developer exception page. So the developer exception page display the detailed information about the exception occurred. So this page is available under the Microsoft ASP.NET Core diagnostic package, which is in the Microsoft ASP.NET Core app meta package. To configure the developer exception page, we need to add use developer exception page middleware into the request pipeline. So we need to enable the developer exception page only when the application is running under the development environment, because we don't want to share detailed exceptions information publicly when apps run under the production environment. So now let's switch to the Visual Studio and understand how to use the developer exception page. So we are in our project which we have created for this video tutorial series. So now let's modify the startup.cs file and let's add one middleware which throw the error. So I have the code snippet, we'll add directly. So we have added the one middleware which simply throw the exception, which is called throw the developer exception here. Okay, so now let's run and see. So once you run your application, you will get this screen with the status code of 500, which means internal server occurred. But as a developer, when we are developing the application, you should have the idea or a detailed information about the exception. So now let's see how to add the developer exception page into our application. So let's stop. And as we discuss, we need to use developer exception page middleware. So let's add it and let's run our application. So if you notice on the browser, we are getting the same screen which we have seen previously. So this is because if you understand how the ASP.NET Core request pipeline works, then you might be know the reason of this. This is because we have added developer exception page after the error occurs. So we need to make sure our developer exception page should be added before any error occur or serving the any request. So let's correct this. Let's move our developer exception page into the above of our exception. So now let's run and see. Now we see the developer exception page as expected. So if you have any experience with the classic ASP.NET, then it is must be similar with that yellow screen. So the developer exception page contains the information. This is the title which indicates the problem, what problem in the exception. So this is the details about the exception. So if you got this, like we have throw the error like a developer exception page. Okay, it shows the exception of the location where actually the exception occurs. So if you see in the startup file line number 44. So here it will give the detail about the code where the exception is occurred. If you see the app.run, the code here it has given and it is showing the error, and below that we have a full stacks of the information. So we will get the full stack about the exception. So now in developer exception page there are the multiple tab. The first one is a stack, so it's give the stack details about the exceptions. Second one is query string. So for this request we don't have any query string data, so it is not shown here. So let's add the query string. So let's call home/10 and switch to the tab. So if you notice, we are getting the query string parameter. So parameter name is ID and the value is 10. The third tab is cookies. So it give the information about the cookies of your browser. Third information is about the headers, the request header for this request. So what are the headers included when the request is issued? And the last one is routing. So it's give the information about the route data and endpoints. So again, here the route data and endpoint is not visible. This is because the exception is thrown before the route data is collected. So now let's move our exception inside the after routing data is collected. So let's move here and run our application. So let's switch to the routing tab. So now if you notice, this is our default route, which is configured under the index action, and the controller name is home. Okay, so in this way you will get the information about your exceptions, what are the query string, headers, and routing information. As we discussed, our developer exception page should be enabled for the development environment only. So let's see how to do that. So for that, we'll add the check environment dot is development environment, and then only we'll add our developer exception page. So in this way, you will restrict this page for the development environment and not expose or share the detail exception with, with the live environment in production. So now let's see how to customize this developer exception page. Suppose you want to customize the lines should be shown before and the after of the exception occurs. So I already have a code snippet, so we'll add it. So to customize the developer exception page, we need to use developer exception page options. So inside this source code line indicates how many lines should be shown after and before the exception of the line which occurs. So let's run and see. So if you expand this, notice our exception occurred in 56 number line. So before this, we only get the 5 line, and after this, we only get the 5 lines. So this is the configuration which limits the code line should be included into your developer exception page. So in this way, we will add the developer exception page into our application, and it will help developer to get the more information about the exception occurs. So please let us know if anyone has a query or a doubt. We will meet in our next video. Thank you. Welcome all to our channel GTech Fluent. Our today's topic number 13 in ASP.NET Core video series is static files in ASP.NET Core. So in this video, we'll discuss and understand what is meant by the static file, how to use the static file in our application, what is default file, and we'll see the example of the static files. So at the end of this video tutorial, you will able to configure your own static files as well as the static file from the root folder. So let's start. First we see what is static file. Static files are a file which is required for your application, JavaScript files, CSS file, HTML files, images or icons. So these static files are default located under www root folder inside our ASP.NET Core application. And if you want to configure or use a static file, so we need to configure the middleware which is use static file middleware into our ASP.NET Core application. So let's switch to the Visual Studio and see the example of the static file. So we are in our project which we have created for this video tutorial series. So as we discussed, the static file places inside the www root folder. So if you expand this, this is the static file which is default created with our MVC application. Let us now take a simple example in which we will understand how to access or serve those files for our application. Suppose if you want to access simple HTML file from this www root folder, so first we need to add index.html file inside that and we'll access the file. So let's add the index.html inside this new item. Let's search for the HTML and we'll give the name for this file is index.html. Okay, so inside body tag we will put some description. So now we have added description like simply Hello from GTech Fluent family, and this is the example of static HTML file. So let's run our application. So to access our static file, we need to give the file name after this port. So let's give the file name index.html. So if you notice, we are getting file not found error because there was no middleware added into the request pipeline to serve the static file. So now let's configure the static middleware into our request pipeline. So as we discussed, we need to configure use static file middleware into the request pipeline. So let's modify the startup.cs file here, and let's add our middleware use static files middleware. Now let's run and see. So let's access our index.html. Look, we are getting the file. So there were 2 points we need to keep in mind. Like if static file finds the file into the folder, so it will simply serves the file and does not call the next middleware into the request pipeline. And if static file does not found the file into your www root folder, so it simply passes the control to the next request into the pipeline, which is configure middleware in after these static files. Suppose in this case our index.html is loading, so from this it will not call to the use core routing and use endpoint. So this will be short circuit from the use static file middleware. If you have any doubt about the middleware request pipeline, then you can watch our previous video on the middleware request pipeline. Now suppose you are converting your existing MVC application to the ASP.NET Core application. So in this case, you need to move your folder inside the www root. But in some cases, you want to use that folder without moving to the www root. So let's see how we can achieve that. So first we create the folder here. So let's create the folder static files, and inside that we'll add another HTML file which we call test.html. So let's add my static file examples. So to configure this my static file folder into the use static file middleware, we need to use the static file options. So I already have a code snippet, so I will add it. So we have used the static file options. So inside this we have provided our folder name which we have created here, and this is the path from which we are accessing our file. So now let's run. To access this, we need to give this path string static files slash test.html. Look, we are getting the static file which we have created in outside the www root with our custom folder. One important thing we need to keep in mind, like this static file options need to be configured after our static file middleware is added. Now we'll see what is the default file or a default template for the ASP.NET Core. So as you know, in IIS we need to give the some default page that need to be loaded when the application get browsed. So this is the same thing that is applicable for the ASP.NET Core application. So let's see how we can add our default page to our application. So to configure the default page for our application, we need to configure another middleware into the request pipeline, which name is use default files. So this will render the default HTML, or you can say the default page for your application. So eventually this default files middleware look for the 4 type of default pages. First is index.html, index.htm, default.html or default.htm. So as we already added index.html inside the www root, so we expect that this page should be loaded on the start of our application. So let's run and see. Look, we are getting this index.html is loading as a default page to our application. Now we have added the default page in our application, which is index.html. But one thing we need to keep in mind, the sequence of these middlewares. So default files middleware must be configured before the use static file middleware. So If you don't want to keep this sequence into your mind or remember, you need to use app.use file server middleware instead of these two middlewares. So we'll remove this one and we'll simply call use file middlewares. So in this, it will automatically maintain the sequence of the default file middlewares as well as our static file middlewares. So let's run and see our changes is working. Look, we are getting our default page, which is index.html. So in this way, we'll add the middleware into our application, which is serving the static files such as HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and others. So please let us know if anyone has any doubt or a query. We will meet in our next video. Thank you. Welcome all to our channel GTech Fluent. Our today's topic number 14 in ASP.NET Core video series is MVC architecture in ASP.NET Core. So in this video, we'll discuss and understand what is meant by MVC, how MVC works, what is ASP.NET Core MVC, and what are the new features into the ASP.NET Core MVC. So let's start. First, we see what is meant by MVC. So MVC stands for the model, view, and the controller. The model view controller is an architectural pattern separates an application into the three main components, and that main components are model, views, and the controller. So this pattern helps us to achieve the separation of the concerns. The model is a set of classes that describe the data type are you working with as well as the business logic which you are working. View is responsible for how the application UI will be displayed, and it is purely HTML which decide how the UI is going to look like. The controller is a set of classes that handle the communication from the user, overall application flow, and the application specific logic. So we will discuss this concept later in our upcoming videos in more details. So almost all the languages uses the MVC architecture, or you can say the patterns with the slight variation, but conceptually it remains the same. So now let's see how MVC works. Suppose user request to the your web application. So first request go to the controller. Controller process your request and identify the appropriate model which process your logic or get the data, and it return to your particular view. Returns the response to the view which is user able to see as a end response. So if you want to understand the more on the MVC request in detail, you can watch our previous videos on the request processing. On that video, we have explained the each step how the MVC or the request pipeline get executed in ASP.NET Core MVC. So now let's see what is meant by the ASP.NET Core MVC. So ASP.NET Core MVC is a lightweight, open source, highly testable framework. So this allows us to use the MVC architecture. So this ASP.NET Core MVC framework allows us to create the web application as well as web API using the MVC design pattern. Now let's see the features of the ASP.NET Core MVC. So these are the features. Some of the features from these are old, but in the ASP.NET Core MVC, it is getting improved considering the usability and easy to use. The new feature I have marked as a bold. So these are the totally new feature into the ASP.NET Core MVC. Some of them are tag helper. We will be discussing this into our upcoming videos. Dependency injection, which we have already covered into our previous videos, and also we are covering the testability and view component into our upcoming videos. So we will cover these features into our upcoming videos. So these are the general overview of the MVC architecture. We will be see how we set up the MVC into our next upcoming videos. So please let us know if anyone has any query or a doubt. We will meet in our next video. Thank you. Welcome all to our channel GTech Fluent. Our today's topic number 15 in ASP.NET Core video series is setting the MVC in ASP.NET Core. So in this video, we'll understand how to set up the MVC in ASP.NET Core with the empty web project. So I would recommend you, please do not miss any step of this. So once you open your Visual Studio, you will get these options. So from this, we will select this create new project. So let's click on the create new project. On create new project, you will get there are the multiple options. From this, we need To select the ASP.NET Core web application, either you can select from here or from here. So let's select ASP.NET Core web application. Let's click on the next. On this screen, you need to provide your project name and the path where you want to store this project. So let's give the name of our project. Let's call it as a sample project underscore core 3.1, and let's change the path as per your requirement. Once we're done with this configuration, let's click on the create. On create screen, you need to choose the version of your web application. So if you expand this, you will see there are the multiple version 2.1, 3.0 and 3.1. We will choose 3.1 and we'll create the empty project as we are setting the MVC from the scratch. So let's select the empty and click on the create. After creating the project, the first step we need to do is add the MVC in web application. So let's add into the startup.cs file into the configure service methods. So this service collection, we need to add our MVC. So let's add services dot add MVC method is there. If you notice, there are the two methods. One is add MVC and another is add MVC core. So we will discuss these two methods in detail in our upcoming videos. For now, we will use add MVC. Let's add. After adding the MVC into the service layer, we need to configure the endpoint which map to our MVC application. So let's modify the app use endpoint. I already have a code snippet, so I will add it. So instead of map.get, we need to map controller to the route. Here we are specifying the default route for our MVC application. So let's remove this one and let's run application. We are getting the page not found, that is 404. This is because we don't have any controller as of now in our MVC application. So let's add controller. So first we create one folder with the name of controllers. And inside that we'll add home controller. Let's click on the add controller. Let's choose the empty. Click on the add and give the name as a home controller. It will take some time to create the controller. Okay, so this is controller created with the index action. We have created the home controller because in our startup file we have set default controller as a home. Okay, so you can create the controller with the different name and that need to be configured here. So after this, another thing we need to do is add view. Just right click on the action, add view, and here if you notice we'll get the view name. So keep this as it is and let's click on the add one. Yes, now our view is added. Let's add some message here. Setup MVC done. Okay, and let's run our application and see. Look, we are getting our index to be loaded as a default page, or you can say the default root in our MVC application. So in this way, we will set up the MVC into the ASP.NET Core application. We will modifying this project as per our requirement into our upcoming videos. So please let us know if anyone has any query or a doubt. We will meet in our next video. Thank you. Welcome all to our channel GTech Flint. Our today's topic number 16 in ASP.NET Core video series is understanding the difference between add MVC versus add MVC core method in iService collection. You may get asked this question into the interview also in a such a way that which method should we use to set up the MVC architecture in our ASP.NET Core. So you must be understand there are the different way to set upping or bootstrapping your MVC application considering the ASP.NET Core 3.1 and above version. So depending on your requirement is your choice to choose which is the correct one, such as using the controllers, views, pages, and exposing the HTTP endpoints. In ASP.NET Core 2, an earlier version, you could register the service, or you can say the MVC framework in ASP.NET Core depending on the two methods, which is add-MVC and add-MVC core. Means we have add-MVC and add-MVC core method to set up the MVC application. In short, we can say the iService collection interface provides the two methods to set up the MVC in ASP.NET Core application. In ASP.NET Core 3 and above version, there are the additional three methods are added to set up the MVC application. The first one is add controllers. So add controllers added the dependency which require for the controllers only. So it will not add the views into your application. So this method is mostly used for the API development, because for this you don't require the views, but the formatter, the authentication, and the authorization things are required. So which is registered under this add controllers method. The next is add controller with the views. So this method is used to set up the MVC application which we are using previously before the Razor application or Razor View Engine is introduced. The next one is add Razor pages. So this method is newly introduced and which is used to set up the Razor pages without controller and the views. So just to explain the Razor View, in Razor page we have created the CHHTML, and for each CHHTML we have a CS file. The code is run behind the CS file. So without controller, these pages get executed. So we'll see difference between the add-MVC and add-MVC core with our previous application, which we have created in our previous video tutorial for setting the MVC application. So in our previous video tutorial, we have used add-MVC method. So let's switch to the Visual Studio and see the example. We are in our project which we have used for the previous video tutorial to set up the MVC into the blank application. So before understanding the difference, let's add one method into the home controller which return the JSON data. So let's call JSON result, and we'll call this method as a get data, and let's return the JSON name equal to, we'll call the GTech Fluent. Okay, so let's run our application and see. Okay, our view is loading, and let's access the JSON data. So home/get data. Okay, so we are getting the JSON data from our new action. So let's close this. Let's stop our application, and let's modify the startup.cs file, and let's change add-MVC to the add-MVC core. Add-MVC core. So let's run our application and see. Look, we are getting the error while returning the view. And if you see the error message that no service type of the temp data or view feature is registered. That means when you add the add MVC core dependency here, it will add only the core feature of the MVC. So considering the core feature means it will not add the view to our application. So what we'll do, let's continue this one, and let's try to access the JSON data. So let's run. Okay, we are able to get the JSON data with the MVC core as well. So in add MVC core, it will add the core feature such as a JSON formatter, authorization, authentication, and other things. In add MVC core, you need to add everything manually. Correcting this error to returning the view, let's add the view dependency separately. So we'll call add Razor View Engine. So we have added Razor View Engine manually here. So let's run our application and see. Look, we are getting our default index page, So the add MVC core provide you a more control over the setting your application. Like as per your requirement, you could set up your application. As we know, MVC is open source. So let's look at the code for the add MVC core. This is the official MVC Git code. So I have picked for this. So if you notice, if you see the method of add MVC core, it is adding some default feature which is required for your application. So if you want to go the feature, understand the feature, you can check this link. So I have given this link our blog, so you can check that. So now let's see the code for the add MVC. So I have the code for here also for the add MVC. So if you look at the method for add MVC, it is internally calling the add MVC core. So when we add the add MVC, it will add the core features as well as the other feature which is required for our whole MVC application. So if you look at here, it is adding the views, Razor View Engine, cache, and other features. So you can decide which one you need to choose for your application. So I have given the link of these two in our blog. We need to understand when we using the add MVC core, we have to add everything ourselves and set up the application as per your requirement. So you can choose method as per your requirement, which is the best or suitable for your application. So please let us know if anyone has any query or a doubt on this. So we will meet in our next video. Thank you. Welcome all to our channel GTech Fluent. Our today's topic number 17 in ASP.NET Core video series is models in ASP.NET Core. So we will see what is models and how to create the models in ASP.NET Core. So let's start. First we see what is meant by models. So the models in ASP.NET Core nothing but the simple class, and this model does not have any dependency on the controller or the views. Model is a set of classes that will be used to post the data to the controller and represent data to the view. And this is also used to manage our logic. The model contains the core application information, like it includes data, validation rules, like implementing the validation such as require field, regular expression, and so on. And also it is responsible for accessing the data from backend databases. Model is known as domain object or domain entity, which implement our domain logic. In simple term, the model is used to pass data between controller to view. Let us now take an example to display the student information like ID, name, class, age, and school name. So we need to display this data to the view. So while creating the model to display this data or represent this data, we need to follow some steps. So first we need to identify the property. So identifying the property means we need to identify the property that need to be included in our class and the naming convention of our property. Next, we need to identify the data type. So the identifying data type is important to avoid the future typecasting when we are going to implement these models. Next, we need to create the model with the above information. We need another model to manage the data. Like we need to create one model to represent the data and another model to manage the data. Managing data includes fetching data, update data, delete, and other operations. Last, we need to pass the data to the particular view. So once we're done with this implementation, we would able to see the information like this. So now let's switch to the Visual Studio and create the model. So we are in our project which we have created for this video tutorial series. So if you have any experience with the previous MUC architecture, you must know that models must be present into the models folder. In ASP.NET Core, it is not mandatory to have a controller inside the controller folder and model inside the models folder. But it is good practice to keep them into the respective folder to identify the easily and make the code separated. So let's create models folder first. And now let's add a model to represent the student data. So right click on the models folder, add, click on the class, give the name. So we have added the models. So we need to add the properties. The first we need ID to identify the record uniquely. So to add the property quickly or fastest way, we can use the shortcut. You just type the prop and double tab. So we need to get the opportunity to change the data type. So we need ID. So we keep it as a int, and let's click enter to enter another property prop. Let's change the data type to the string. We need a student name. Let's enter prop string. We need a class. Enter prop integer. We need age. Enter prop. We need a school name. School is a string type, so we'll call it as a school. Okay. So now we have added the model to represent the data, but we need another model to process or manage the data to get the information from the our underlying databases. So now let's add another models inside this. So basically we'll add interface. We'll discuss this later why we require this. So let's add an interface with the iStudent repository. Now let's add, and we'll return the student type data to get student method, and we'll receive int as a ID parameter. Okay. So now we need another model to implement this interface. So let's add another model here. Class. We'll call it as a student repository, and we implement our iStudent repository here. Let's implement. So now we have added the class to represent the data. We have added the another model to process the data. So let's create some private list of student to returning the data and add the constructor of this. So adding constructor faster way, just call ctr tab and initialize the list here. So we have now created the data which return from here, and from our method just return the student of this ID. So just return underscore student dot first dot default ID equal to ID. So we have now provided the implementation of our get student method. In our next video of understanding the controller, we will implement the dependency of this class and will add that class or fetch data into the controller. So as of now, we have created the student class to represent the data. We have implemented the interface to process or manage the data. So please let us know if anyone has any doubt or query on this. We will meet in our next video. Thank you. Welcome all to our channel GTech Fluent. Our today's topic number 18 in ASP.NET Core video series is controllers in ASP.NET Core MVC. So in this video, we'll understand what is controllers and the roles inside the ASP.NET Core MVC. In our previous video of understanding the models in ASP.NET Core MVC, we have created the models to represent the student information data and another model to process the information of the student data. So in this video, we'll implement this in our controllers. So let's see what is meant by controllers. So controllers in ASP.NET Core MVC application are the classes, and it is derived from the controller base class. Controller class must be suffixed with the controller word. For example, if you see in our application home controller, it is suffixed with the controller word. If you have not provided the suffix to the controller name, then it will give you the error as a resource not found. So please be careful while giving the name. Controllers having the variety of the methods, and this public method is known as action method, which is handling the user request. Any request come to our application from the browser the controller in the MUC architecture that handles the incoming request. When user request for our application, it first go to the controller and it's load appropriate model and return response to the view or as per result type. So let's switch to the Visual Studio. So we are in our project which we have created for this video tutorial series. In our previous video, we have created the model to represent the data and another model to process the data. So before adding the controller, let's separate out the presentation and the process of the models. So let's add another folder here, call it as a repository, and let's add another folder here. We'll call it as a interface, and let's move this interface inside the interface folder, and the student repository inside the repository folder. So in this way, we will manage our data processing and the representation of the model. So now let's add the student controller. In ASP.NET Core, it is not mandatory to keep the controllers inside the controller folder, but it is a good practice to keeping them into the controllers folder. So let's add our controller inside the controllers folder. Right click, add, and click on the controller. Select the MUC empty controller, click on the add, and look, we are getting the opportunity to change the name till the controller. Just change name to the student. As we discussed, controllers are inherited from the controllers base class. This is the base class where the controller is inherited, and controllers must be suffixed with the controller word. And controller have the method which process the user request. So now let's add the constructor here. CTOR tap, and let's use the iStudent repository here, and let's receive the dependency here, student repository, and just assign. We are using the constructor dependency injection, so you can check our previous video on the dependency injection, how we can add the dependency and the different way of reading or getting the data through the dependency. So now let's add another method here which get the student data. So we'll call it as a, and we'll get ID as a parameter over here, and we'll get the student type, student repository dot get student, and we'll pass ID, and we'll return as a JSON, return JSON, and pass the student object. Now let's run and see. Get student /1. Look, we are getting the error like unable to resolve the dependency, or you can say the service type. This is because we have not resolved the dependency yet for the iStudent repository. So let's correct this. Let's go to the startup.cs file, and let's add our dependency into the service collection, services.add scope. Let's add iStudent repository interface and the our concurrent class. So we have now resolved our dependency. So if you have any query or doubt on this add scope or the service lifetime, you can check our previous video on the dependency injections. So now let's run and see. Check student /1 ID. Look, we are getting the JSON. Just open it. Look, we are getting the student data for the ID1 as a JSON. So from the controller, we can return the different type of data. So now let's change this JSON result to the content result. And let's return the content here. Content require the string, just serialize our object. We'll use JSON converter, just import the newtons of JSON and return the result. So let's run and see. Look, we are getting the data into our browser. So now another way of returning the data is like view result. So let's iAction result, change this, and let's return as a view. So let's run and see. Look, we are getting the error because we have not added the view yet. In our next video of understanding the view or implementing the view in ASP.NET Core, we'll implement the view functionality for this. So in this way, we will add controller actions and return the different result from the controller. So please let us know if anyone has any query or doubt. We will meet in our next video. Thank you. Welcome all to our channel GTech Fluent. Our today's topic number 19 in ASP.NET Core video series is views in ASP.NET Core MVC. So in our previous video, we have created the model to represent the student data and also added the student controller to process the student information data. So in this video, we'll discuss about the view with an example. So let's start, and first we see what is meant by view. So view is an HTML template with the razor markup which is used to represent the data. View is used to display data using the model class object. View file has an extension which is CS_HTML as we are using the programming language C#. In MVC, view files are located into the views folder. So let's switch to the Visual Studio and see the view with the example. So we are in our project which we have created for this video tutorial series. So view files are located into the views folder into the root directory of our project. So for each controller, we have a separate view folder created. As of now, we have two controller in our application. First is home controller and second is student controller. And if you look at the view folder structure, we have a view present for the home controller for the index action. But as of now, we have not added the view for the student. That's why it is not showing here. So basically, when we create the view or add the action into the home controller, all the view regarding the home controller will be placed inside the home folder, and all the view regarding the student controller will be created or under the student controller. So let's go to the student controller. So before making any changes, we will change the return type of the view to the view result. It will work with the action result as well, but for make the thing clear, we will change the return type to the view result, and we will also change the method name to the details. As you can see, the student controller, we have only one action method, that is details, and the return type of this method is view result. So this action method is going to return the view, and in order to return the view, we are using the return view method, which is inside the base controller class. So now let's run our application and navigate to the student details/1 and navigate to the student details/1 action. So we are getting the error that view details was not found, and this is because we have not added view yet in our application. So now let's understand how the view getting searched into our application. As we are returning the view from the details action method of the student controller class, by default MVC looks for the details.chhtml into the following location. First, it look for the details.chhtml file within the view/student because the details action belong to the student controller. Then it look for the shared one, view/shared. And finally, it will try to find out details.chhtml file into the pages/shared folder. If the requested details.chhtml file get found, then view is generated and returned to the particular request. If view is not found, we will get this error. So now let's correct this error. Let's add the view to our application. You can add the view by adding the student folder here and create the details HTML. But the fastest way, you can right click on the details action, add view, give the name details, keep this empty and click on the add. So our view is created. So let's run our application and see and navigate to the student/details/1. Look, we are getting the details view. If you go to the definition of the controller base class, then you will find 4 overloaded method of the return view. The first one is a view, second one is view with the name, third one is a view with the name and the object model, fourth one is view with the model. Let us discuss this, the use and significance of the each method. The return view extension method to return a view and look for the file with the same name of the action method name. into the student controller class. So now, suppose if you want to return the view which is not similar to your action, so we can use return view with the view name method. From this details action, we will return the student info view instead of details view. Student info. So now this return view with the view name extension method return the view and it's look for the given view name instead of the action name into the student controller. So let's add the view with the student info. Add view the view name. Click on the add. We have now added the student info view. So now let's run and see and navigate to the student slash details slash one. Look, we are getting the student info view instead of details view. So we would able to provide the full path here instead of the view name. For example, views slash student slash, and here we need to give the extension CS HTML. Now let's run and see and navigate to the student slash details slash one. Look, we are getting the student info. So when we give the full path, we need to make sure we have given the extension here. So we have another two method remaining from this return view. The first one is a return view with the model and another one is return view with the view name and the model. So these two methods are used to pass the data from controller to view. So we will discuss this in our upcoming video of the passing data from the controller to view. So please let us know if anyone has any query or a doubt. We will meet in our next video. Thank you. Welcome all to our channel GTech Fluent. Our today's topic number 21 in ASP.NET Core video series is strongly typed views in ASP.NET Core MVC. So this is another technique of passing the data between controller to views. So in our previous video, we have discussed another two techniques, that is view data and the view bag. So in this video, we'll discuss about what is mean by the strongly typed view, how to use the strongly typed view, or how to create the strongly typed view, and why we require the strongly typed views. So let's switch to the Visual Studio and we'll see the strongly typed views with the details. So we are in our project which we have created for this video tutorial series. So the view which is bind to the specific type of view model is called as a strongly typed view. That means when we pass model to the particular view with the help of the return view extension method, that view get binded to the particular view model, and that view is called as a strongly typed views. If you go to the definition of the controller base class by pressing the F12, you will find the four overloaded extension method of the return view, and two of them which we have already discussed in our previous video of understanding the view. So in this video, we'll discuss these two methods, return view with the model, return view with the view name and the model. So let's make the change into the controller. Let's return the student object to the view by passing the student object into the return view extension method. So let's remove this as we don't require this now. After this change, we need to make change into the details view. Let's comment out this as we have removed the logic from the controller. So now in this case, we already have a view present in our application and you are converting your existing view to the strongly typed view. So in this case, you need to use model directives here, model directives space, and you need to import the model which is using for this view. So in our case, that is student class. So the basic thing is the strongly typed views are created using the @model directives, and we need to pass the model object as a parameter to the view extension method. After this change, we can able to access the model properties with the help of @model m should be capital dot, and if you press the dot, you will get the properties of the student class. In this case, we require the name. Let's run and see and navigate to the student slash details slash one. Look, we are getting the data of the student name. So now we need to make some changes into the UI to display the student information that we have previously discussed. So let's make the change into the UI. So I have added require CSS and the HTML here. So let's modify. Here we require the student name @m capital model dot name Here we require the age @ model.age. Here we require the school, and here we need to give the class. So let's run and see and navigate to the student/detail/1. Look, we are getting all the data of the student like name, age, class, and the school. But if you notice, we are not getting the image. This is because we have referred the image outside our application. But in ASP.NET Core, static file are served under the www root folder. To serve the static file, we require the www root folder. So let's click on the project, click on the add folder, www root, enter. Look, it is getting converted into the root folder. And let's move this image inside the root folder. So after this change, we need to configure the static file middleware into the startup class. So here we need to configure the app.use static file middleware. If you have any query or doubt on the static file, you can check our previous videos on the how to serve the static file, where we have covered each concept of the static file in the detail. Navigate to the student/detail/1. Look, we are getting the image also. So now let's see how to add the new view as a strongly type view. So let's add another action into the student controller, which will return the list of the student information. So let's add another action, view result. We'll call it as a student list and we'll return the view. And we need to add the another method to get the list of student. Let's add another method inside the interface and we'll call it as a get all student. After this, we need to implement inside our student repository. So we'll get all the data of the student, and let's go to the here. Let's receive the list of the student and return the list to the view. Now we have created the action. So we need to create the view. So let's right click on the action, add view. Here you need to select the template as a list. In the model class, you need to select the student class as a model class. So once we select the student class, that view is created as a strongly type view. So this is view created by the MVC for us to display the list. So let's run and see. Navigate to the student/student list. Look, we are getting the list of the student. So in this way, you will create your own strongly type view. So now let's understand what are the benefit of the strongly type view. As we see, we have created the view to display the student list, and it will give us the scaffolding, which is the automatic functionality of the MVC. So you don't worry about creating the HTML and all these things. So another advantage of the strongly type view is IntelliSense support. For example, if you type model dot, so you will get the properties inside the class, where if you go with the view data and the view back, you will not able to find the properties of the class. Another benefit of the strongly type view, it will give the compile time error. For example, if you type the property which is not exist inside the model class, for example, I will type the date. If you notice, we are getting the red line here. It is giving the compile time error, like this property is not belong to this class. So in this way, we will pass data to the strongly type view using the model class. So please let us know if anyone has any query or doubt. We will meet in our next video. Thank you. Welcome all to our channel GTech Fluent. Our today's topic number 20 in ASP.NET Core video series is passing data between controller to view using view data and view back. So in MVC application, we can pass data from controller action to the view using view data, view back, and the strongly type model. So in this video, we will discuss about the view data and the view back and the difference between them. So let's start, and first we see what is meant by the view data. So the view data is a MVC dictionary, is a weakly type of object which is derived from the view data dictionary class. View data value must be explicitly cast to the data type that you are expecting. But if you are accessing the string value, then you don't require to casting the value. The view data only transfer data from the controller action to the view, but it is not work vice versa. View data is only valid for the current request. View data does not provide the compile error. For example, you have put a wrong key name into the view data dictionary. It will not give you the error at the compile time, but you will get the error only at the runtime. So let's switch to the Visual Studio and see the example of the view data. So we are in our project which we have created for this video tutorial series. As of now, we have created the model, controller and the view. Now we will see how to pass the data from the controller action to the view using the view data. As we discussed, view data is a dictionary object, so it will store the data in the form of key value pairs, where each key must be the string value. So now in our example, we need to pass the student data to the view. So let's assign the student object to the view data. And if you see, it's a type of the view data dictionary, and we need to give the key name. So we will give the student information and we'll assign the student object. So now we have assigned the view data from controller action. The next step is we need to fetch or retrieve the value from the view data into the view. So let's go to the view. And let's access the student data here. As we discussed, we need to typecast the student data into the student object, student data as student class. So now we have received or fetched the data from the view data into the object and we have converted into the student class. So let's print the student name here, student dot name. Let's run and see and navigate to the student slash detail slash one. Look, we are getting the student name Johnny, and let's access another. We are getting the student name for the Mary also. Now let's see how to pass the string value. So let's declare another view data with the page title key, page title, and pass the title student information. And into the view, let's access this page title. So as we discussed, we don't require the type casting for the string value. So we can directly access the string value into the view. So let's access view data. Let's run and see and navigate to the student slash one. Look, we are getting the title, student information, as well as the student name. Let's check for the another. So now let's see what is mean by the viewback. So viewback is a dynamic property of the controller base class, and this dynamic type is introduced into the C# 4.0, and it is very similar to the var keyword. That means we can store any type of value into this type, and that type is getting decided at the runtime rather than the compile time. So viewback does not require the typecasting, and it will throw the error if you have fetched the wrong method, or you can say the wrong value. Viewback also used to transfer data from controller to view, not vice versa. And viewback is also available for the current request. So let's see the example of the viewback. So now let's pass student data using viewback instead of view data. So let's comment out this and use viewback dot. As this is dynamic property, so we need to give the name student, and into the view we need to access the viewback. So let's go to the details view and let's comment out this var student. We can assign directly value to the our variable. Look, we are getting the information of student with the help of viewback. So now let's see how to pass this string value. In similar way, we need to use viewback with the page title and we pass the string value. And we can access this viewback page title value into the view @ let's run and see and navigate to the student/details/1. Look, we are getting the student information page title. So in this way, we will pass data from the controller to view using ViewBag and ViewData. So as we see with the example, the difference between the ViewBag and ViewData is a dictionary object, whereas ViewBag is a dynamic object. ViewData and ViewBag both are the property of the controller base class. ViewData and ViewBag both are used to pass the data from controller to view, both having the life cycle for the current request. So in our next video, we will see the strongly typed model passing the data from controller to view using the model. Please let us know if anyone has any query or doubt. We will meet in our next video. Thank you.
Welcome all to our channel GTech Fluent. Our today's topic number 22 in ASP.NET Core video series is view model in ASP.NET Core MVC. This is another technique to pass data between controller to view. So in this video, we'll discuss what does mean by the view model and why we require and when to use the view model. So let's switch to the Visual Studio and see the example of the view model. As of now, we have discussed the different data passing technique between the controller to view. For example, view data, view bag, and the strongly typed view. So view model is another technique to pass data between controller to view. View model is nothing but the class which is work similar as a strongly typed view. So the view model is a model which has a more than one model data property that is required for the particular view, and this is called as a view model. Let's take an example. As of now, we have displayed a student information in our application in the details view. Now we got a requirement or we want to display the address details for the particular student. So in this case, we required two models, one for the student and another for the student address. So the student model contains the information of the student data or the student information, and the address model store the information of the address data. Now, if you take a look of the view, we are using the student model class to display the student data. And now we need the student information as well as the address information. To achieve this, we need to create another model which is called the student view model, which contains the student information as well as the address information. So first, let's create the address model in our application. Right click on the model, click on the class, give the name student address. So we require the properties. To add the properties faster, use the prop tap. We require the ID of the student address. We require the ID of the student, which is the reference from the student table. We require the string address. We require the city and we require the pin code. So we have now added the address model. So now in student repository, we require another method to get the address of the student. So let's create the list of the address and we'll call it as a student address. So now we have created the list of the student address here. So we need another method to get the student address. So let's go to the student repository, add another method. We'll get the student ID as a parameter and it will return the student address object, and we'll call it a get student address. Let's go to the repository and from here let's return the address of object. Now after this change we need to make another change. Let's go to the controller. Here in details we'll get the student address. Let's call it the student repository get student address and we'll pass the ID which we are passing to this. Now if you notice, we have two model here.
and we only passing the one model to the view. But now we need to pass these two model. So let's add view model to hold these two model inside that. So we should store our all view model classes under the view model folder into our application, but it is not mandatory. So now we have added the view model folder here. So let's add the student view model inside the view folder. Let's right click on the folder, add, click on the class. Let's call the student view model. Let's add the two property here. First, to store the student information, which is the student object, and another one is student address, which contains the student address information. So after adding this model, let's go to our controller and let's create the object of the student view model.
So now we need to make the change, assign the property of the student view model of the student and address for the student view of the student address. Another change is like we need to pass student view model instead of the student model. So let's pass the student view model to the view. Now one more change we need to make into the view is, if you look at the view, we have used student class. Now we need to use the student view model. So let's change to the student view model. So another change we need to make is model.student.name. We need to access like this. So let's make the change for all. So now we require the address to be shown. So let's add address below of this and we'll call it as a address, and from student address we'll get the student address detail. So student address dot, we'll call it the address. We require the city, we require the pin code. Okay, so after this change, let's run and see and navigate to the student/detail/1. Look, we are getting the address data. Please do not get confused between the model and the view model. So both work as the same, but in some case we need to pass the combination of the model data. In that case, we need to use the student model. So it's totally depends on you how you call into your application. But if you have got this question into the interview, please keep in mind the view model contains the multiple model information that required for the particular view. So now you are able to understand what is meant by the view model in ASP.NET Core MVC. So please let us know if anyone has any query or doubt. We will meet in our next video. Thank you.